This next video I'm going to show you how to create SKUs in Rick's Enterprise. The very first thing that you want to make sure of is up at the top right hand corner where you navigate between organizations. You want to make sure that you've navigated to the top store owner level. This way, if you're a multiple store organization, you only want to create the SKUs at the top one time, so that will flow down to all of your stores. Then you're going to click on the Setup tab and you're going to click on Manage SKUs. What we're going to talk about in this particular video is we're going to go over the General tab. So the very first thing is where you're going to put the SKU number. The SKU number is down on the field that has the blue line. When you see blue lines, these are required fields where you have to type information in. The quick lookup is where you look up an existing SKU. So the quick lookup, or there was the view lookup tool. That's how you look up existing SKUs. But if you're creating a brand new SKU, you just go right down to the SKU field. So what you're going to do with our recommendation is you are going to type in the SKU that the supplier calls it. That's what we recommend. And then you're just going to use your tab keys as you go down through these fields. And that'll bring you to the supplier code. One note on the SKU number. You definitely want to try to use exactly what the supplier calls it. In this example, this happens to be a New Balance product, and this is the SKU number. The GL is the actual color. So in most cases, you're going to have a separate SKU number for each color. If it's a supplier that doesn't really have a number, maybe they have a name instead. Maybe they call it Siesta. They might have Siesta in 3 different colors. So for Siesta Black, you would create Siesta/Black, or however you want to create that. You'll save your SKU, and then if you have a white one, you'll type in Siesta/White. You decide how you want to do it, but be consistent when you create the SKUs. In this example, we're going to go with the MR993GL. So now I'm to supplier code. So you can type in the code that's in the system, or you can use the supplier code lookup, and that'll bring up your supplier lookup. You can look up a supplier by supplier code, name, or short name. If you know the code, you can just simply type in the code and hit your tab key. That'll bring you down to the supplier SKU field. This just automatically copies what the SKU says, so if it needs to be anything different, go ahead and type in that different number or name. The next field is the class field. So basically 2 ways of pulling up the class. I could simply start typing it in. I typed in men's and it will bring that up, and if I find it, I can just select it. The other way is by using the drop down. I can click on the drop down, and I like to click on the minimize down at the bottom right. Then I can find exactly which class I need and go ahead and select that item. We're going to choose men's walking shoes and just click on OK. The next field is the color field. So this is what I call an autofill field. So once I start typing in the color, you'll see that they start coming up. So if I find what I'm looking for, I can just click on it. If I had a color that wasn't in the system, say I was looking up black/purple, I could type that in, and as soon as I hit tab, you'll see the alert center message come up. It'll say invalid color, and if I want to add it, I click on yes, and that automatically adds that color for me. The next field is your cost field. That's just the wholesale price, which you pay for it. The next one is retail price, what you're going to sell it for. And then you have markdown. This is more in the future if you need to mark down this item. You also have list price. A lot of people don't use the list price section. It's more of a catalog compare to price. If you're not going to use that, just leave that blank. And then you have the perk section. This is for employees. So if you're trying to get rid of this shoe, maybe you're not selling it very well, and you say, okay, whoever sells this shoe will get $3 every time they sell it. That's what this is designed for. So then at the point of sale, it keeps track of that. You can run a report and you can tell how much you owe your employees for those particular items that they sold that had perks. The next part, you have the GP percent, the gross profit percent. So if you wanted to make that different, maybe you always did a 60% gross profit, then once I type in the 60, it changed it from 100 to 125. I'm just going to go ahead and keep it at 50. The next section is your short description. You have a maximum of 20 characters, and then you also have a long description, a maximum of 64 characters. We use the short description for everything. So we use it for the lookups when you're looking up a SKU. We use it for what prints out on the label. We use it for the point of sale when you're ringing up the item on the screen, and what prints out on the receipt. So this is very important on what you type in this section. A lot of people will use whatever the supplier calls it, like if they call it a name, they'll go ahead and type in that name for the short description. Or they will type in just whatever the description is. If the supplier doesn't call it a name, they'll just type in exactly what that item is on this line. If you want to type in a long description, a lot of people will just copy the short description and paste it in the long description. At some point in time, we may use that long description for something, such as exporting your list of SKUs, into your website if you sell shoes on your website, just to get a longer description. So you can decide to either leave that long description blank or copy and paste or type a longer description in there. The next section is available to POS on. If this shoe is not available for a couple months, maybe you go to a market, you place an order, and that shoe's not coming in for 2 to 3 months, and you do not want your people at the point of sale to accidentally pull that shoe up or item and sell it, you can put a future date here. So you could either click on the calendar icon and put a future date or change that date. And this way it will not be available at the POS until that date hits. Now the great thing about it is if you receive those items in before that date, when you receive them into your stock, as soon as you receive them, it'll automatically change this date for you. So you don't have to come back in here and change it if you happen to get this item in early. So that's a good thing. The next section is available to order until. So if this item is discontinued and you want to put a date there, that way you know that that item cannot be ordered after that date. In the future, we're going to have a model template that you can pick from for models, and then we also have a label type. If you are printing labels either to a LaserJet printer or a barcode label printer such as a Zebra, you will want to use either regular, if it's just the regular size stickies. You have hang tags, which is your hard stock, more for apparel, handbags, clothing, that kind of thing. Jewelry tags for jewelry, a smaller tag, or an other type of tag. So if you're printing labels, it's going to be one of these. The most common one is just the regular, if it's just a regular size sticky label, whether you're using a LaserJet printer or a Zebra printer. If you are using manufacturer barcodes, then you'll choose none. By choosing none, when you go to receive them, it won't generate labels to be printed. If I have this coded as regular or hang tag or one of these, when I go to receive my product, it'll not only receive the product, but it will store labels for me. So all I have to do is go to print stock labels and my labels will be there to print. So that's very key when you're setting the SKU up as to what label type you want this as. Up at the top right, we have a comment section where you can type in any comments here. They will be internal and you can see them on the screen. We also have an alert text box. This is nice, so if you type in alert, whenever you pull up this item, it'll pull up that alert message, whether it's on the back end of Rex or if you're on the POS. Another nice area is this custom entries. If you don't have any custom entries set up in Rex, these will not show up. These are just some example ones that we created as a test. So you can be as creative as you want with these. For example, if I click on the one that says MLB, Major League Baseball is what that custom entry is. If I put a %, that's our wildcard, which brings up the entire lookup. I can also type in a letter. So if I typed in R, it would bring up anything that started with an R. So that's another one of these autofill fields. And I can select Cubs. So I can run a report now that says, give me a list of all my merchandise that is coded to this custom entry of Major League Baseball for Cubs, and that would bring up all of my Cubs merchandise only. So a lot of neat ways that you can pull out additional information in RICS if you need to. Another good one is season. So for this one, you can code when this product came in for the first time. So, if it came in for the first time, in spring of 2009, you can run a report to say, just give me a list of my merchandise that is coded to this season, and it will only bring up that merchandise. So many different ways that you can create custom entries, and there's a separate video just on custom entries, how to actually create them. Another one here, if this is a men's core product, this is an example of what someone created as a keyword, and you can go ahead and select that. Then on a report, you can pull up anything that has a keyword of men's core, and it'll only bring up that product. So very useful. If you're interested on how to use that, be sure and watch the custom entries video. The next section that I'll be talking about is the grid tab, so I will be doing a separate video for that. But if you ever want to simply save where you're at so far, maybe I'm right in the middle of creating this and I get a phone call where I need to walk away. Be sure that you click on Save and Continue. Save and Continue will save what's on the screen and leave it there. So when you come back in 5 minutes, it'll still be there. But if you come back after 20 minutes and the system has sat idle for 20 minutes, we'll have you at the log off screen. So you'll have to log back in and come back into ManageSKUs. But the great thing is, if you saved it before you left, all you have to do is pull up that SKU and just begin where you left off. So always click on at least Save and Continue. That will save what you've done so far and leave it up on the screen. I don't have to click on Save if I'm just going to the grid unless I'm walking away from the computer. So if I'm here creating a bunch of SKUs, I don't have to click on Save yet. I can go right to the grid tab, which we'll get into here in a little bit. Save and clear will save the SKU and clear the entire screen. So if you were creating a completely different SKU, I would probably click on Save and Clear, and that'll save what you did, clear the screen, and now you can type in a completely different new SKU there. Save and copy would be more if you have a lot of the same product, like you're entering in all New Balance shoes, and maybe they're the same class or the same cost or retail. You can click on Save and Copy, and that will save it, and it'll leave a lot of this information up on the screen, but it will clear the SKU. So that way you can put a brand new SKU and you don't have to retype in or reselect New Balance. You don't have to reselect the class unless you need to. Maybe you just need to change the color. Maybe the cost in the retail is the same. So it's more of a time saver, this Save and Copy. It'll save what's on the screen, and it will clear the SKU field, so that way you can type in a brand new SKU and just save yourself some time and just change the things that you want to change. The next section that I want to talk about on the General tab is these pencil icons. These are advanced price editing screens. So you can do it for cost, retail, markdown, list price, or perk. This would be if you want to do maybe a future price change, and also note whatever's in yellow for the retail or markdown, that is your current selling price at the POS. So if I wanted to do an advanced price change, I could just click on this pencil icon and my advanced pricing screen pops up. I can put in a different price. Maybe I want to increase it. I can go ahead and change it to a different price. I can put the start date. So maybe I'm not starting today, but I'm starting August 22nd. If I leave the end date blank, that's permanent, a permanent price change. If I put an ending date, that means it's going to revert back to its original price of $100 after that date. So pretty neat how you can do that. Example, if I wanted to do a markdown on this, I would just click on the pencil icon for the markdown and say I want to mark it down to $89.99, and I want to start this markdown on August 31st, and I'm going to make this a temporary markdown, so I'll say that it's going to go back to its original price in September 30th, and then I'm going to click on change. Now this way, on that date, August 31st, it'll automatically change it to $89.99, and it will put it in my markdown slot. And then after September 30th, it will revert back to the $100. And then I can just close this advanced pricing screen. I can always end these as well. If it was more of a permanent markdown, I'd click on the pencil icon. Maybe I wanted to mark it down to $89.99 and I want to start today, make it permanent. I can click on change and close my advanced pricing menu. And you'll notice since I made that immediate, it makes whatever is the current selling price, it'll put that in yellow. So this is the price that is showing up at the POS when you go to sell that. So current selling price is always in yellow. So this is how you can get to those advanced pricing menus. There are separate videos for this, so if you want more of an extensive video on how this all works, be sure to look at your Wix Enterprise video library and you will see those. So that ends the video on Manage SKUs for the General tab. Be sure to watch the video on the Grid tab next.